Welcome to Chez Moi. This weekend I was mainly melting and also doing a little bit of construction work of a sort. So let's have a look at what I've been up to, eh? Hello there. It's a very warm day, but this is one of the cooler rooms in the house. Gareth asked recently, how do we sort of display our toys? And the answer in my case at the moment is pretty poorly. I have one of my Detolfs here, and as you can see, it is not optimized at the moment for the storage of, well, anything, quite frankly. So this is a bit of a before and after, really, because what I'm actually aiming to do is use a number of different shelving units and so on I've got from Amazon in order to create new shelves in these Detolfs, so full-size shelves, but also some kind of riser shelves and so on, so I can actually then add to the existing storage within the Detolfs themselves, because I have just got to the point where I've sort of over-accumulated, basically, inevitably, I suppose. But I would like to find a better solution. And as you can see now, there's a lot of empty air in a lot of these display units, and it just came to that point where I actually had to sort of make a decision to stop getting stuff in at quite such a rate and actually divert some resources into buying shelving instead. Now, part of this was down to my own sort of decision to try and limit the amount that I crammed into each of the various sort of holes, as you can see here. So I've tried to keep each of these shelves down to 8, but I did get quite a few shelves here. This is just a little Billy bookcase, and I've now upgraded it with what is a sort of a fully glass door. So although it isn't really one of their sort of explicit IKEA storage options, it's quite useful for me because it just gives me the option to put in plenty of shelves. And this is my original sort of granddaddy of the Billy bookcases, again upgraded with the see-through glass doors, which just give much better visibility on what's inside. I mean, there's still a central strip down the middle, but it's still not bad. And what I did here was I've decluttered basically, and I've just left the largest of my Eaglemoss Starship models in here. So I used to have sort of micro machines and all sorts, a lot of the smaller models in here as well, but it just looked too busy. So I've tried to sort of rationalize quite a bit, but that's why, again, I've now got to that point where I just need to have a really sort of good sort and just try and kind of rationalize what I've already got. And just try and sort of not cut it down, but just organize it better so that it displays better, and I can just get more stuff actually sort of into cabinets. Because at the moment it's just I've got a little bit of stuff sort of strewn everywhere, so I just need to sort it out a bit. Well, lots happened since I finished putting these shelves on last night, but let's not dwell on that for the time being. Here we have a Detolf that I've now separated it out into basically 8 separate compartments by virtue of putting in 4 extra shelves. Now, it's always a little bit precarious doing this. These attachments are different to ones that I've used before, but they've not done too badly. It's kind of a weird way that the shelves are sitting, because they're sat on the actual sort of screws themselves, rather than the thing that's keeping the screws in place, which is not how I thought it would go. But the shelves seem pretty decent in terms of the depth, in terms of the depth of the actual sheet perspex that's going to hold stuff. So I'm fairly comfortable with that. If I remember, I'll put some links in the description to tell you which option I went for. And I had a bit of a brainwave. It was one of those sort of, what do people call it, sort of 500 IQ moments or whatever. And I realised that I've never actually had a free Detolf to put my Star Trek Eaglemoss ships in, like these guys here. Because originally I was thinking that these guys would go in the new shelf, on the new shelves in the existing Detolf. But then I thought, hang on a minute, my other Billy bookcase collection of Eaglemoss is actually more coherent in the sense that it's separated out by Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and so on. So what if I move all of them to this Detolf, which is better visibility for the sort of the more usual ships and so on, and instead I move the ones that I just showed you over into the old Billy and put them in there instead. And actually I think that makes 100% more sense. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the next little while moving everything from one Billy bookcase into the Detolf, and then move these guys from their sort of current open situation into the Billy bookcase. Now the other advantage with that is I can get more models onto the shelves here and use a riser than I can into the Billy bookcases. So I should actually be able to use some of the extra space to incorporate some of these floating models into my sort of previously standing display in the Billy bookcase. So that should work out really nicely. Now over here I've had a look at this this three-tiered option that I have here. I played with it very briefly last night because I was quite tired. Now it fits fine, and it actually leaves enough space I can put a box down the side on the right. And this is just another Detolf, but you can see here I've put quite a small figure here. The standard McFarlane figures will not fit in this space. They're going to hit the roof badly. So there is no way I can get large figures on that top shelf. So that was a miscalculation. What I probably should have double checked was the overall height of this plus a figure when taking into consideration the overall layout of this standard Detolf square, or cube if you like, space at the top. So that ain't going to work so well for the big figures, I don't think. I'd have to do something different with the bigger figures. Now, it might be that I use one of the risers I've picked up and do that, and sort of use the riser as an alternative. But actually, for these smaller figures down here, which are a much smaller scale, so more the sort of kind of, 5-inch and below kind of figures, these guys will probably fit in pretty well, and that could be a massive space saver. There's also space at the front here on the bottom, so effectively I've got 4 shelving heights, which will display everything very clearly. If they're not huge figures, they won't get in each other's way either. So if, for example, I put this Robot Anti-Terror Squad guy on there, I mean, I've always got this fear of them throwing themselves off, of course, and completely sort of cascading down and destroying everything beneath them. That's a bit of an issue. And it may well be that I need to find more foot stands like I've got on Batman here. I don't know if you can make that out, but these are sort of standard Star Wars holding, and vintage Star Wars figure holding foot stands. Now, they don't fit everything, of course, that's the problem. So I'm going to have to do something else for different models. Now, this shelf and this shelf I can use for larger figures because there's enough headspace there. So that will work as a concept. But unfortunately, it's limiting because you lose that top shelf effectively, which is a third of the extra space you'd otherwise get. So that's not worked out quite as well as I might have hoped. But I think there are workarounds, and all of this is just an experiment, really. If I can get rid of all of the Eaglemoss stuff, then it's a win, basically. And I think that should work quite nicely. But I remain challenged by things like figures on cards. The figures on cards are problematic because they are big, and you can't easily display them in a confined space. It just doesn't work. So either I start taking stuff off the cards, because these are not massively, I mean, some of them are better than others, but they're not massively sort of pricey. Or I come up with a different plan. I mean, I haven't gone massively into figures. I've got more sort of bits and bats. I've got Star Trek-y bits. I've got single examples. So I don't have full collections of figures from given series that I actually want to show off yet. But I do have individual items that I would like to display. And it may be that I use this sort of tiered example as a way to show off the smaller figures where I know I can get decent stands for them, or they will just sit on the perspex, or I find some way of lining the perspex so it's not as slippy and smooth as it currently is. That might help. I think there are various options open to me and various different stand solutions probably as well, so I just need to have a more of a think around that. But for now, it's a good start, and I'm really pleased I got all the shelves in one day, because that's a good job done. And now I can get around to actually starting to shift them very, very carefully. Well, the project broadly went to plan. I slightly miscounted my shelves because I didn't actually have a shelf per series. So at the top I've gone with my Bird of Prey collection, which still needs to be filled out a little bit. I've got my Enterprise shelf here, which is largely complete, but there's one more that I need to address. This is the first of the really sort of full shelves. So this is my Voyager shelf with the titular craft there, because it's not an Enterprise, of course. But I've got the Delta Flyer and Species 8472, a few of the Borg ships at the back there. So that's looking pretty good, and I can now get 11 to a shelf, quite a busy shelf, but 11, which is useful because it means these shelves can swallow more than like the Billy ones could. So we've got Deep Space Nine here, various ships from the series. There can be some crossovers, of course, so I'm trying to go by kind of first appearance of the particular ship type wherever possible. Into Next Generation here. Now some of these look older because they appeared in some of the Next Gen episodes the first time when we saw them, but they are sort of older classes of vessels. It kind of varies. Now the original series has given me a bit of a headache because I don't have enough ships from the original series to fill up an entire shelf. I've got one other to unbox, which I haven't done yet. So once I've unboxed it, I can add to it. But at the moment, it's looking a bit sparse. But there's not a lot I can do about that, because there won't be that many more original series ships that actually got on screen, because obviously making models back then was a lot harder and a lot more expensive. So I got the Enterprise then. Hilariously, because Enterprise was CGI, there are shed loads of ships from Enterprise, even though it didn't last that long. So there's plenty to choose from on that row. And down here, what I've gone for, I was originally going to do a sort of a Borg, anti-Borg ship row, but then it occurred to me I could go with the movie ships. So all of these ships down here actually first appeared in one of the movies, either original series movies or, you know, sort of Next Gen era movies. So I just went with that as a bit of a giggle to use up the remainder of the space. So I've got sort of 11, 22, 33, 44. So I mean, there's a good sort of 70 odd ships here, probably minimum. And it's been nice to get them out and put them in the clear like this, because obviously you can see them at multiple angles and they're much better lit when all the lights are on. It's just nice, basically. I'm hoping to high heaven that all the shelves hold and none of them decide to go breaky on me, because that would be a deeply bad thing. Only one Cardassian Galore was damaged in the making of this new display setup, and I was able to fix it. It's a slight downside to the Eaglemoss models, that being a combination of metal and plastic can sometimes be their downfall when they hit a hard surface, because of course the metal tends to break the plastic. But all in all, I'm quite happy with the way it's turned out. I need to sort of catalogue what I've actually got now on this basis, but you know, I can now absorb what I want to absorb much more easily, having put these extra shells in finally. And I'm so gutted that they don't sell Detolfs anymore, because you know, they're still so useful. I'm really surprised that they stopped making them, but this is one of those ones where perhaps I can still find them secondhand, or you know, for people who just don't want theirs anymore. But it's just really tricky to transport them, of course. So I might have to look into some alternatives, but as I have pairs of them, you know, I'm trying to keep them all together. So that's it for this little sort of room display. The other Detolf cabinet is not so back together again yet, because I haven't had time to do that. But you know, I'm quite happy having done the Eaglemoss one here, at least for the time being. Cheers for now.